The steam clung to my skin like a second skin, hot and unforgiving, as I tilted my head back under the scalding spray, letting the water drown out the ache in my chest from another day of pretending. That's when the door to the men's locker room shower burst open with a metallic screech that cut through the hiss of the pipes like a knife. And there she was, a woman in a rumpled cocktail dress, heels dangling from one hand, eyes glassy with too much wine, staring right at me as if the word privacy had been erased from her vocabulary. Her lips parting in a gasp that echoed off the tiles louder than my pounding heart. I froze, water cascading down my face, blurring the world into a hazy veil of shock and steam. My name's Alex Harper, 28 years old, architect by trade, and perpetual resident of the Just Friends zone in a city that chews up dreams and spits out compromises. Seattle's relentless drizzle mirrored my mood that night. Gray, unrelenting, soaking into your bones until you couldn't tell where the rain ended and the regret began. I dragged myself to the gym after a brutal 12-hour shift at the firm, chasing the burn of weights and the isolation of an empty locker room to outrun the ghost of Mark's laugh from our last bro night. The one where his hand lingered a beat too long on my shoulder, igniting sparks I had no business feeling. But now, here was this intruder, a whirlwind of sequins and smeared mascara, stumbling forward like she'd taken a wrong turn at the bar and ended up in my private purgatory. "Oh God. Sorry. Wait. Is this?" She slurred, her voice a mix of horror and hazy confusion, dropping her heels with a clatter that made me flinch. I snatched the towel from the hook, wrapping it around my waist in a frantic knot, my face burning hotter than the showerhead. "Lady, this is the men's room. Out," I barked, my voice cracking like a teenager's, but she just blinked at me, swaying, as if processing the absurdity through a fog of Cabernet. Before I could lunge for the door to slam it shut, she lurched sideways, grabbing the edge of a bench for support, and that's when I saw the bruise blooming purple on her wrist. Fresh, deliberate, the kind that whispered stories no one wanted to hear. My anger deflated like a punctured tire. "Hey, are you okay?" I asked, softer now, stepping out from the spray, water pooling at my feet. She looked up, really looked at me for the first time, her green eyes sharpening just enough to register my concern. "Okay? Do I look okay to you, Adonis?" She let out a bitter laugh that echoed hollowly, sliding down to sit on the wet floor, her dress hiking up unceremoniously. "Name's Lena, and no, I'm not. My husband's a prick, the party's a bore, and apparently, I've got the spatial awareness of a drunk squirrel." I hesitated, glancing at the door she'd left ajar, the fluorescent lights from the hallway spilling in like an unwelcome spotlight. The gym was supposed to be my sanctuary after hours, deserted, judgment-free, a place to wash away the weight of unrequited everything. But Seattle had a way of thrusting chaos into your path, like the universe's twisted joke on solitude. Against every instinct screaming, "Walk away," I grabbed a spare towel from the stack and draped it over her shoulders. "Alex," I said, crouching down to her level, careful not to touch the bruise. "What happened? That mark on your arm. Nothing a little liquid courage can't fix," she interrupted, but her voice wobbled, betraying the bravado. She pulled the towel tighter, suddenly small in the vastness of the locker room. "Tom thinks fidelity's optional after 10 years. Caught him with his assistant at the holiday gala. So I left, stumbled here instead of home. Figures." Her words hung heavy, laced with a rawness that tugged at something deep in me. The echo of my own buried hurts, the ones I buried under blueprints and bravado because admitting them meant cracking open the closet door I'd nailed shut years ago. I nodded, not sure what to say, the steam still curling around us like conspiratorial smoke. Growing up in a conservative suburb outside Tacoma, I'd learned early that vulnerability was a luxury for straight folks. My dad, a retired cop with a badge-polished worldview, had drilled it in. "Men handle their shit, Alex. No whining." Mom baked casseroles to apologize for the silence around my phase in high school. The one that involved stolen glances at the quarterback and a journal full of poetry I'd burned before college. Now, in the cutthroat world of urban design, where deals were sealed over scotch and schmoozing, I played the part, charming, competent, conveniently single without the messy details. Mark, my best friend since architecture school, was the only one who'd ever come close to seeing through the facade. Or so I thought. Lena's phone buzzed from her clutch on the floor, lighting up with a barrage of texts. She ignored it, but I caught a glimpse. "Where are you? Come back. We can talk." From Tom. "Talk?" she scoffed, snatching it up and silencing the vibration. "That's code for gaslight me into forgiveness. You ever been there, Alex? Loving someone who treats you like an afterthought?" Her question landed like a gut punch, stirring the silt of my unspoken truth. Mark, tall, tousled blonde hair, that easy grin that lit up boardrooms and broke hearts without trying. We'd bonded over late-night renders and bad takeout. Him straight as the Space Needle, me orbiting like a moon too scared to crash. Last week, he'd confessed over beers. "You're the only one who gets me, man. Like, really gets me." I'd laughed it off, heart hammering, but the what-ifs had haunted me since. "Yeah," I admitted to Lena, voice low. "More than you'd think." She tilted her head, studying me with that boozy intuition strangers sometimes wield like a weapon. "The way you said that, there's a story there. Bill. Misery loves company, right?" I opened my mouth to deflect, but the door swung open again, this time with purpose. A guy in gym shorts and a hoodie burst in, scanning the room with frantic eyes. "Lena? Jesus, what the hell?" He was built like he lived in the free weights section. Broad shoulders, inked forearms peeking from sleeves, dark hair cropped close, and hazel eyes that locked on her with a mix of relief and exasperation. But then they flicked to me, half-dressed, towel-clad, crouched too close, and something shifted, a spark of assessment that made my pulse stutter. "Whoa, easy," he said, hands up in surrender, though his gaze lingered a fraction too long on the water trailing down my chest. "I'm Jake, her brother. You the knight in shining terrycloth." Lena snorted, waving him off. "Alex was here when I arrived. Be nice, Jake. He's cute." Jake's eyebrows shot up, but he didn't deny it, just extended a hand to help her up, his movements gentle despite the tension in his jaw. Up close, he smelled like cedar and clean sweat, the kind that spoke of discipline, not desperation. "Thanks for not letting her drown in her own drama," he said to me, his grip firm, warm, electric. "Gym's closing soon. Mind if I get her out of your hair?" I stood, suddenly hyper-aware of my damp skin, the chill raising goosebumps now that the shower was off. "No problem. Just take care of her, yeah?" Our eyes met again, and there it was, that unspoken pull, like gravity testing its limits. Lena, sensing the charge, smirked as Jake steered her toward the exit. "You two should grab coffee sometime. Alex needs loosening up. And Jake, well, he's got layers." The door clicked shut behind them, leaving me alone with the drip-drip of the faucet and a whirlwind in my chest. I dressed quickly, replaying the absurdity. A tipsy invasion, a bruised confession, and a stranger whose glance had unraveled me more than Mark's touches ever could. Outside, Seattle's night air slapped me awake, rain-slick streets reflecting neon from the gym sign. I pulled up my hood, heading for the bus stop, but my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Hey, it's Jake. Lena insists I owe you for the save. Coffee tomorrow? 8 a.m. that spot on Pike? No drama, promise." My thumb hovered, heart a drum solo. Mark's face flashed in my mind, all easy familiarity and safe distance. But this felt like the edge of something reckless, alive. I typed back before I could overthink it. "You're on. But if she crashes another shower, you're buying." Little did I know, Jake's layers hid fissures deeper than the city's underground tunnels. Secrets that would drag us both into a storm of betrayal and bare-souled reckoning, where love wasn't a straight line but a seismic fault ready to shift everything. The aroma of fresh ground beans hit me like a lifeline as I pushed through the door of Pike Place's hidden gem, a cozy nook called Rain Shadow Roasters where the baristas knew your order before you spoke and the windows fogged with the warmth of too many untold stories. It was 7:58 a.m., the kind of Seattle morning where the clouds hung low like a held breath, threatening to burst but holding back just to mess with you. I'd barely slept, replaying the locker room chaos on loop. Lena's raw vulnerability, Jake's steady presence, the way his hand had brushed mine in that towel handoff, sending a jolt straight to places I'd long ago mapped as off-limits. Spotting him at a corner table, nursing a black coffee with legs stretched out like he owned the joint, I felt that pull again, magnetic and unnerving. He looked up, that hazel gaze locking on, and a slow smile creased his face, crinkling the corners of his eyes in a way that screamed trouble worth chasing. "Alex, right? You clean up nice. No steam this time." He stood, pulling out the chair opposite with an easy grace that belied the gym rat build. "Steam's overrated." I shot back, sliding into the seat, my knee accidentally grazing his under the table. A spark, quickly retracted. The barista, a pierced 20-something with a knowing wink, delivered my usual Americano without asking. Jake raised an eyebrow. "Stalker much? Or just a regular?" "Regular," I admitted, stirring in a packet of raw sugar to buy time. "This place is my therapy. Cheaper than actual therapy, and the caffeine doesn't judge." We laughed, the sound easing the knot in my gut, and for the next hour, conversation flowed like the sound on a calm day. Effortless, revealing just enough to intrigue without spilling the depths. Jake was 31, a personal trainer at the gym with a side hustle in graphic design, sketching logos for local bands in his off hours. Grew up in the shadow of Rainier. Foster kid shuffled between homes until his aunt took him in at 15. "She was the anchor," he said, tracing the rim of his mug. "Taught me that family's not blood. It's who sticks when the rain pours." There was a weight to his words, a flicker of old storms in his eyes, but he pivoted quick, asking about my blueprints and the high-rises I dreamed of designing that actually breathed, not just stacked glass and ego. "You're passionate," he observed, leaning in, his voice dropping to that intimate timbre that made the cafe feel like our private bubble. "Most guys I know chase the corner office like it's oxygen. You? It's art." Heat crept up my neck, not from the coffee, and I shrugged it off with a joke about permits being the real villains. But inside, something stirred, a validation I'd craved from Mark's casual nods but never quite gotten. "Mark." Shit. My phone vibrated in my pocket, his name on the screen. A group chat ping about Friday's happy hour. I silenced it, guilt twisting like a bad weld. As we wrapped up, Jake scribbled his number on a napkin, his fingers brushing mine deliberately this time. "Text me. Lena's on a redemption kick, swears off wine for a week. But seriously, Alex, that was a hell of a first impression. Let's make the second count." He lingered at the door, rain starting to patter against the glass, and for a heartbeat, I thought he might lean in, close the gap. Instead, he clapped my shoulder, firm, lingering, and vanished into the mist. The week blurred into a rhythm I'd forgotten existed. Anticipation. Jake and I texted nonstop, memes about gym fails, debates on the best trail runs up in the Cascades, snippets of our days that felt like sharing secrets in code. By Thursday, we were hiking Discovery Park at dawn, boots crunching through mud, the saltwater tang sharpening the air as we crested a bluff overlooking the bay. Seattle sprawled below, a mosaic of fairies cutting wakes and evergreens clawing at the sky, and up there, with the wind whipping our jackets, barriers crumbled. "You're out, then?" he asked casually, as we paused to catch our breath, his profile sharp against the horizon. The question hung, loaded. I hesitated, the old instincts kicking in, deflect, deny, disappear, but his eyes held no judgment, just quiet curiosity, and the words tumbled out. "Yeah, to a few. Works. Complicated. Clients don't care about your soul, just your specs." It was half-truth. The firm was progressive on paper, but the old guard still whispered about lifestyle choices over lunches. And Mark. God, Mark was the complication, the straight-laced partner who joked once, "If I swung that way, you'd be my type," leaving me gutted and grinning like an idiot. Jake nodded. No pity party, just a hand on my back. Steadying. Sparking. Complicated's where the good stories live. Me? Out since 18. Aunt threw the coming out party herself, complete with rainbow jello salad. He laughed, but there was an undercurrent, a shadow I couldn't place. We descended the trail in companionable silence, shoulders brushing, and by the time we hit the parking lot, his kiss was inevitable, soft at first against my truck door, then deepening with the urgency of held-back tides. It tasted like salt and possibility, his hands framing my face like I was something precious, breakable. That night, alone in my Capitol Hill apartment with its exposed brick and view of the Ferris wheel's distant spin, I replayed it until dawn. Mark texted again. Missed you at drinks. Everything good? Guilt gnawed, but so did exhilaration. Jake was a revelation. Open, unapologetic, seeing me without the filters I'd worn like armor. We planned a real date. Dinner at a hole-in-the-wall Italian spot in Belltown. Candles flickering against brick walls. Plates of carbonara shared with forks twining like our fingers under the table. It was perfect, achingly so. Stories swapped over tiramisu. His foot hooking mine. The way he listened when I vented about a stalled project. Eyes never straying. You're building more than buildings, Alex, he said, voice husky in the dim light. You're crafting spaces where people can finally breathe. Walking home along the waterfront, arms linked. The city's hum faded to our private symphony, punctuated by stolen kisses under street lamps that painted us in gold. But perfection's a fragile thing in Seattle, where the fog rolls in unannounced. The next morning, as I scrolled through my feed over coffee, a notification stopped my heart. A photo from the firm holiday party I'd skipped. Mark, arm around a guy from marketing, caption screaming, new vibes. No, not that. Deeper scroll. Jake tagged in a post from months back, a beach bonfire with an ex, the kind of intimate shot that screamed history. But it was the comment that iced me. Lena's. Miss this crew. Tell Ethan I said hi. Still dodging his calls? Ethan. The name hit like a rogue wave. I'd mentioned him offhand once to Jake. My college hookup gone wrong. The one who'd ghosted after coming out blew up his family's world. Coincidence? Or was this the layer peeling back too soon? I texted Jake. Who's Ethan? Saw the pic. Minutes ticked by, then old news. Why? Evasive. My stomach churned. That evening, over beers at his place. A loft crammed with sketch pads and weight benches. He downplayed it. Ethan was intense. We burned hot, crashed hard. He's ancient history. But his eyes dodged, and when I pressed, he snapped. Trust me, Alex. Or don't. Your call. The fracture was small then. A hairline crack. But it widened with every unanswered question. Work piled on. A deadline crunch for a waterfront redevelopment that had the partners breathing down my neck. And Mark, sensing my distraction, cornered me in the break room. Dude, you're off. Spill. His concern was genuine, hand on my arm steady as ever, and for a treacherous second, I wanted to confess it all. The kiss with Jake, the fear of losing the one constant I'd clung to. Instead, I mumbled about stress, and he pulled me into a hug that lingered, his chin on my shoulder. I'm here, man. Always. Guilt and longing warred as I left, straight to Jake's for makeup sex that was fierce, forgiving bodies tangling in sheets that smelled of him, whispers of I got you against skin. But in the afterglow, as he slept, I scrolled his phone, wrong, invasive, but the doubt gnawed. Buried in messages, Ethan's name, recent. Miss you. Lena says you're seeing someone? We need to talk. For old times. Jake's reply, unread. Not now. Complicated. Betrayal's first taste is bitter, cold. I slipped out before dawn, rain lashing the windows like accusations, and drove home through streets that blurred with more than weather. Seattle had given me Jake, a mirror to my hidden self, a chance at the romance I'd scripted in secret sketches. But now, the plot twisted, shadows lengthening toward a climax I couldn't blueprint my way out of. The days bled into a haze of half-truths and hurried reconciliations, the kind where passion papers over the potholes until you hit one too deep. Jake and I fell into a rhythm. Mornings at the gym where his spotting my lifts felt like foreplay, evenings tangled in his loft overlooking the market's bustle. cooking pasta from scratch while arguing over indie bands and the ethics of high-density housing. He drew me out, layer by layer. The kid who'd built forts from couch cushions to escape Dad's lectures. The architect who sketched parks for queer youth in his notebook margins. Dreams too tender for client pitches. In return, he shared glimpses. Foster homes that taught him walls were for leaning on, not trusting. His aunt's death 2 years back, leaving a void he filled with ink and iron. "You're healing me, you know that?" he murmured one night, trace of fingers along my collarbone as the city lights danced on the ceiling. I believed him then, lost in the curve of his smile, the way he said my name like a prayer. Mark faded to background noise. Texts unanswered, happy hours dodged, until the universe, ever the meddler, conspired otherwise. It started with Lena. A random Friday, post-workout, she texted me. "Coffee? Oh, you big for dealing with my hot mess. Jake's working late." I met her at Rain Shadow, the same spot. Her bruise faded but wariness etched deeper. Sober. She was sharp, marketing exec with a laugh like wind chimes, green eyes missing nothing. "So, you and my brother," she said over lattes, stirring with surgical precision. "He's smitten. Hasn't shut up about you since the shower debacle." My mug paused midair. "He mentioned, briefly." Lena's gaze softened, sympathetic. Ethan was fire, passionate, possessive. They met in college, built a life in Portland. But when Jake's aunt got sick, Ethan bailed. Said it was too much. Left Jake holding the pieces. "He's gun-shy now, builds walls faster than you draw elevations." The words landed heavy, reframing Jake's evasions as scars, not sins. I thanked her, left with a resolve to bridge the gap, to be the steady he deserved. That night, I showed up at his loft unannounced, takeout from our Italian spot in hand, ready to lay it bare. "No more ghosts," I said, pulling him close on the couch, the city a glittering backdrop. "I'm all in, Jake. You?" His kiss was answer enough, fierce, affirming. But later, as we lay spent, he confessed in whispers, "Ethan's been reaching out, wants closure." I told him no, but it stirs shit up. Vulnerability cracked his voice, and I held him tighter, promising we'd face it together. For a while, it worked. We hiked the Olympics, snow-dusting evergreens like powdered sugar. Volunteered at a youth center, teaching design basics to kids with stories like ours. Hidden, hopeful. Love bloomed, romantic and raw. Notes tucked in gym bags, slow dances in the kitchen to vinyl crackle. His head on my chest as fairies horned in the distance. But Seattle's underbelly has teeth. 2 weeks later, the hammer fell at work. A client dinner at the Metropolitan. Schmoozing for the waterfront gig. Mark was there, of course, charming the suits in his tailored vest, blonde hair catching the chandelier glow. I arrived late, Jake's text still warm in my pocket. "Kill it tonight. Proud of you." But seeing Mark, leaning in to laugh at a partner's joke, his hand clapping my back in greeting, stirred the old ache, a reminder of the life I'd half-lived. "Haven't seen you, man," he said over appetizers, eyes searching. "Dating someone? You got that glow." I froze, fork midway to my mouth. The table hushed, expectant. Lies tangled on my tongue, but the wine loosened it. "Yeah, Jake. Trainer downtown." Mark's smile faltered, just a flicker. Hurt? Surprise? Before he recovered, toasting with forced cheer. "Good for you. Deserve it." The rest of the night blurred. Deals inched forward. Laughter echoed hollow. But as we spilled onto the street, Mark pulled me aside under the awning. Rain sheeting down. "Alex, be careful, okay? I mean it." His voice was low, urgent, hand gripping my arm like anchors. "Guys like that, they come on strong, but..." He trailed off, jaw tight. "Just, you're my best friend. Don't want you burned." The words stung, paternal and presumptuous, but underneath, jealousy, raw and unmasked. My heart twisted, years of pining crashing against this new truth. "Worried about me or something else?" I pressed, voice steady despite the storm inside. He released me, stepping back into the downpour. Both. Forget it. Happy for you. But his eyes said otherwise, a confession aborted. I got home soaked, Jake waiting with a towel and takeout, oblivious. We ate cross-legged on the floor, but distraction clung like damp clothes. The next day, Ethan's shadow loomed larger. A voicemail Jake played on speaker, voice smooth as oil. Saw your Insta, Jake. That architect. Cute. But we both know you settle when you're scared. Call me. Let's fix this. Jake deleted it, face thunderous. Ignore him. But the seed of doubt sprouted. Late nights where he'd check his phone too often. Silences stretching like fog. Then the betrayal. I found the letter in his sketchbook, slipped between pages. A handwritten note from Ethan, dated last week. I'm in Seattle. Meet me. For us. Before you ruin another good thing. Ruin. The word gutted me. Had Jake been playing both sides? Stringing me along while chasing old flames? Confrontation exploded that evening. Words flying like shrapnel in the loft's high-ceilinged echo. How long, Jake? Since the shower? Was I just a rebound? He paced, hands raking hair, denial crumbling to admission. I ended it months ago, but he won't let go, shows up, guilts me. I didn't want to drag you into my mess. Mess? I echoed, voice breaking. That's what I am now? Your mess. The fight escalated. Accusations hurled. Hurts exhumed. He grabbed my arm, desperate. No, you're the first real thing since. God, Alex, I love you. The words hung, a lifeline or a lie. I wrenched free, storming into the rain-slashed night, heart a wreckage of what-ifs. Hours later, alone in my apartment, Mark's text lit the dark. Heard about the fight. Need a friend? I stared, temptation warring with resolve. Seattle's skyline mocked me through the window, towers I'd helped erect, steady against tempests. But love? That was the real architecture, built on trust's shaky beams. The climax brewed, a perfect storm. Ethan's arrival, Mark's unspoken claim, Jake's fractured past colliding in a weekend that would shatter or solder us forever. The weekend arrived like a verdict, gray skies cracking open with sporadic sun that mocked the turmoil churning inside me. Saturday morning, I woke to a barrage of messages. Jake's apologies stacking like unread blueprints. Please, let's talk. I fucked up, but it's you. Mark simpler, ball game? Beers? No pressure. And then unbidden Lena, Ethan's in town. Stayed with us last night. Jake's spiraling. Help? Spiraling. The word propelled me out the door. Tires slicing through puddles toward Jake's loft. Resolve hardening with each red light. He answered shirtless, eyes red-rimmed. The space reeking of stale coffee and regret. Sketchpads littered the floor. Half-finished designs bleeding into abstractions of chaos. Alex? He breathed, stepping aside, defeat in his posture. We stood there, the air thick until he cracked, collapsing onto the couch, head in hands. I should have burned that letter. Ethan's poison, Alex. Charming till he claws in. Makes you question your worth. I sat beside him, close but not touching. The chasm between us a live wire. Then why keep it? Why not tell me? My voice was even architect's precision masking the quake. He looked up, raw. Fear. Of losing you. Of proving him right. That I'm too broken for this. The confession poured out. Ethan's manipulation post-breakup. The gaslighting that left Jake doubting his every choice. The way he'd relocated to Seattle to escape. Only for the past to stalk him via mutual friends like Lena. Empathy warred with hurt, but his vulnerability. The man who'd held me through nightmares now unraveling. Tipped the scale. You're not broken, I said. Hand finally bridging the gap, cupping his jaw. We're all fractured. Question is, do we build or bulldoze? His eyes searched mine, hopeful, and the kiss that followed was salvation. Slow, searing, a vow etched in touch. We spent the day rebuilding. Walks along the locks, salmon leaping upstream like metaphors for persistence. Talks that bared souls, no topic taboo. But the storm wasn't spent. Sunday, Mark called as I prepped for a firm presentation, voice edged with urgency. Alex, meet me. Now. Elliot Bay. It's about Jake. Dread pooled. I arrived to him pacing the bookstore's cafe, coffee untouched, face drawn. What the hell, man? I demanded, sliding into the booth. He thrust his phone across. Screenshots from a mutual contact. Ethan at a bar last night. Jake's arm around him in a photo, time-stamped midnight. Caption. Reunited and it feels so good. Jake Reardon. The world tilted. This from Friday? Mark nodded, grim. Saw it pop up. Thought you should know before. He trailed off, pain flickering, jealousy, yes, but laced with genuine care. I get it. Okay? The pull. But he hurt you once already in my book. Just choose you. Betrayal's second strike lands deeper, carving canyons. I bolted, straight to Lena's, borrowing Mark's car in a haze, rain resuming its assault. She met me at the door, face ashen. He's not there. Went to confront Ethan after the bar. Said he needed closure. My blood iced. The bar was in Capitol Hill. A dive called the Velvet Room. Queer haven with sticky floors and secrets in the shadows. I burst in, scanning the dim throng. Drag queens lip-syncing heartbreak anthems, couples tangled in booths. There. Jake in a corner, Ethan opposite, hands gesturing wildly. I approached, heart thundering over the bass. Jake! They startled. Ethan's smirk slithered into place, polished predator in designer jeans. Ah, the new boy. Jake's told me all about you. Jake's face crumpled, guilt, fury. Alex, wait. No. I cut him off, voice steel. Explain. Now. The truth unraveled messy. Ethan had ambushed him post-bar, the photo staged. A forced pose during a heated argument, Jake shoving him away seconds later. I told him to fuck off, for good. Jake insisted, standing, reaching, but doubt's poison lingered, Mark's warning echoing. Ethan leaned in, oily. He's always been mine, sweetheart. Dramatic exits are his love language. The bar spun, climax cresting in a roar of emotion. I lunged, not at Ethan but words. You don't own him. No one does. Security hovered as shouts escalated. Jake pulling me back, his plea breaking through. Stop, please. It's you, Alex. Only you. Ethan slunk out, tail between legs, but the damage festered. Outside, rain biblical, we faced off under a street lamp's halo. I can't do half-truths, I said, tears mixing with downpour. Not with you. He stepped close, forehead to mine. Then full truth. I love you, scars and all. Let me prove it. The choice loomed, walk away, safe in Mark's orbit, or leap into the unknown. Mark's text buzzed. You okay? I silenced it, finally, and nodded. Prove it. The weeks that followed were reconstruction, therapy for Jake, boundaries drawn like sightlines. Ethan vanished, blocked on all fronts. Lena mediated, her own marriage salvaged in parallel. Mark and I talked, raw and real. His bisexuality confessed in a park bench epiphany, the jealousy a mirror to his own unspoken wants. I was scared of losing you, he admitted. But seeing you fight for this? It's right. We hugged it out, friendship fortified, no romance to complicate. Spring thawed Seattle's grip, cherry blossoms dusting the U district like confetti. Jake and I designed together. A community center proposal, spaces for stories like ours. Open, illuminated, resilient. On a rooftop one dusk, city sprawling golden below, he dropped to one knee. Not ring, but sketch. Our future, lines intertwining. Build with me? He asked, voice thick. I pulled him up, kissing him under the emerging stars. Always. Love, we'd learned, wasn't flawless arches but honest welds. Enduring the quakes, stronger for the scars. In America's restless heart, where rain washes clean and new dawns break unyielding, we chose each other. Not perfect, but profoundly human. And in that choice we found home, not in towers or lofts, but in the quiet spaces between breaths, where vulnerability builds the truest foundations.